Hey there, pirates! Welcome aboard the Anime No Me channel. When we stop to think about the bounty of someone like Rayleigh, the so-called Dark King, the first mate of the man who reached the end of the world and discovered the truth of the Void Century, it's hard to imagine a modest number. In fact, it's actually curious how this information has never been revealed directly, especially considering that ever since the Sabrody arc, his presence alone has commanded respect even from figures who normally hesitate before no one. Kizaru, for example, an admiral who charged at 2 supernovas as casually as someone kicking sand on the beach, paused when Rayleigh appeared. That's in chapter 504. And it's not just about physical strength. It's not just about hockey. It's about name. It's about history. It's about the weight of who you were in the past and what you still represent in the present. That's why I think maybe Rayleigh's bounty has been deliberately hidden until now. Not just because it would have been too soon to show, but because maybe it's not that far off from the highest ones we've ever seen. Now, as for Scopper Gaban, Roger's left-hand man, he was recently introduced in chapter 1139 of One Piece, finally ending a 14-year-long mystery. His presence in Elbaf alongside Rayleigh reinforces his importance in the Roger Pirates crew. Gaban is described as someone whose abilities rival those of Roger and Rayleigh, nicknamed the Mountain Devourer, due to his incredible strength. His appearance in Elbaf, awaiting Luffy and his crew, suggests that he'll play a significant role in the current events, possibly connecting the past to the present and influencing the direction of what's happening in the One Piece world. If Luffy's bounty is 3 billion now, and Zoro and Sanji are each near 2 billion, then we can't use the old scale anymore, where only figures like Whitebeard, Kaido, and Big Mom had those kinds of values. The world has changed. The bar has been raised. And if Loki, Prince of the Giants of Elbaf, has a 2 billion bounty without being the heir to Joy Boy's legacy or leading a crew that challenged the world's greatest, then I think it's fair to imagine, without stretching too much, that Roger's 2 right and left-hand men had bounties even higher than that. Rayleigh was Roger's vice captain, the first mate, the man who sailed the same ship as the only pirate to reach the end of the Grand Line, discover Laugh-Tale, read the poneglyphs, and understand everything. We know Roger reached the end, but it was Odin who read the stones. And the one who understood what was being read was right there beside him, Rayleigh. That's made clear in his conversation with Robin in chapter 507, where he confirms that he knows what happened during the Void Century, that he knows the full story, but he won't reveal it because he understands each person's journey is their own. That's not just philosophy, it's a risk. Someone who knows all that isn't an ordinary civilian. He's a living threat to the world government. And if that's the case, then why is he still walking free? Why hasn't the government sent all available CP agents to hunt him down in Sabaody or wherever he might be? Maybe because Rayleigh isn't easy to capture, which we see right there when he stops Kizaru, who was about to finish off Zoro. Maybe because the government itself understands that trying to capture Rayleigh just isn't worth the cost. But maybe, and I think this maybe carries a lot of weight, Rayleigh does have an active bounty that's still being kept secret, because revealing it would put at risk the image the government wants to maintain. If his bounty were revealed now, it would inevitably be compared to those of the Yonko, and if it were higher than someone like Shanks or Teach, it would change everything. It would make people realize that the government's greatest enemy might not be someone currently active, but an old man who still has connections everywhere, who knows the forbidden history, and who, despite saying he's retired, showed up to help the future Pirate King. And then we come to Gaban, Scopper Gaban. He hasn't appeared much, almost not at all. But what little we do know about him is already enough to raise a bunch of unanswered questions. Gaban was Roger's left-hand man, the one who likely stayed in the backline, the one who probably knew the operational details of the crew. And even with so few appearances, his design caught everyone's attention. Bracelets, posture, serious expression. He doesn't look like a character created just to decorate flashbacks. And the most curious thing, he hasn't appeared in the present yet. Unlike Rayleigh, who showed up in Sabaody, Amazon Lily, and even commented on the Blackbeard versus Law fight, Gaban remains absent, silent, and it's in that silence that his strength lies. I think he's being saved for a specific moment, maybe a moment where Luffy's allies need someone who represents the past and can carry a legacy. If Rayleigh represents Roger's legacy of strength and wisdom, Gaban could represent balance. He might be the one who kept the crew on track while Roger and Rayleigh followed their own rhythms. And if the One Piece world works with parallels, and Oda loves creating parallels, then it makes perfect sense that if Luffy's right and left-hand men now have bounties near 2 billion, Rogers must have had something equivalent or even higher. Maybe Rayleigh had something like 3.4 billion, and Gaban around 2.7 or 2.8 billion. Something that reflects not just their strength, but what they represented. Because in One Piece, bounties were never just about brute strength. They're about threat level, reputation, impact. And these two men stood beside someone who shook the world. The question of why their bounties haven't been revealed yet could be answered with simple logic: it wasn't the right time. Until Zoo, we hadn't seen a single bounty over 1 billion. That only came later, with Katakuri and then the Yonko. Rayleigh appeared way before all that. If we had seen a bounty over 3 billion back in chapter 504, it would have shifted the entire scale of the universe and done so without proper context. Now, with Luffy, Buggy, and Teach above 3 billion, with Zoro and Sanji closing in on 2, with Loki and the warriors of Elbaf also in that range, that kind of number no longer shocks. On the contrary, now it serves as a bridge. Now it has narrative purpose. And maybe that's why Rayleigh and Gaban's bounties might finally be revealed soon. Not through a wanted poster shown by some random character, but through a conversation, a memory, a dialogue between those who lived through that era. There's also an interesting detail about the context in which Rayleigh lives. He lives in Sabaody, a key place where pirates must pass before entering the New World. He's there, like a shadow, a guardian of the path, someone who has already reached the end and now watches others as they begin. And he's not just any observer. He helped Luffy, he trained Luffy, and we know that's no small thing. Luffy's haki changed completely after those 2 years. His control, his intuition, his will, all of it was shaped by someone who knows haki at its highest level. That's also something a bounty reflects, because the government knows who trained Luffy. They know who he's become. They know it wasn't random, and they know that if Rayleigh helped a kid reach Yonko level in just 2 years, that alone would be more than enough reason to raise his bounty, if it wasn't already massive before. Now, about Gaban, the silence is almost poetic. He's the only big name from Roger's crew who hasn't had a role in the present, but maybe that's exactly why he'll have a crucial role, because everything that's kept in the shadows for so long isn't forgotten. It's preparation, it's buildup. If Rayleigh's bounty is 3.4 billion for everything he represents, and Gaban's is something like 2.8, that would fit perfectly with the current landscape, with what the world is going through, with what Luffy represents. Because if Luffy is Roger's spiritual heir, then the names around him also carry echoes of the past. Zoro as the new Rayleigh, Sanji as the new Gaban. The parallels aren't exact, but they're emotional. And in One Piece, emotions carry weight. They carry legacy, and they carry bounties. And maybe, just maybe, when those bounties are finally revealed, we'll realize that the world government never stopped fearing what these men knew. That the silence around their names wasn't forgetfulness. It was respect. It was caution. And maybe it's that silent respect that allowed Rayleigh to walk free. Because sometimes facing a living legend isn't strategy. It's an invitation to chaos. And now, with Gaban finally showing up, not in a flashback, not in a passing mention, but present, alive in Elbaf, the mystery that lasted over a decade begins to unravel. It wasn't just build-up, it was preparation. A character Oda hid for 14 years doesn't return by accident. The choice of Elbaf as the stage is no coincidence either. It's the land of the greatest warriors, of heroic tales, of deep history, a place where legends become reality. And Gaban is there, alongside Rayleigh, as if the echoes of the Void Century were gathering for one final move. The nickname Mountain Devourer says a lot. It places Gaban on a level of strength that rivals the top names in the series. Not just in physical power, but in impact. The Navy knows it. The government knows it. And maybe for that very reason, the silence around him was always more than just forgetfulness. It was a form of containment. Revealing his existence, his position, his bounty, that would be like reigniting old embers the world has tried to keep extinguished. These bounties weren't revealed before because the world of One Piece wasn't ready. Not narratively, not emotionally, but now everything has changed. Joy Boy has returned. The legends of the past are on the move, and with Gaban appearing in Elbaf alongside Rayleigh, it's clear the end is near. And it won't come just with new names, but with the old ones returning to claim what the world has forgotten. Maybe in the end, Roger's greatest strength wasn't just uncovering the truth, it was having men like Rayleigh and Gaban at his side. Silent legends whose bounties were as great as their legacies. Men who, even in silence, continued to shape the world. And now, with everything about to collapse, they're no longer just watching, they're coming back. And when legends return to the battlefield, even the gods tremble, or rather, the celestial dragon. That was today's content. We hope you liked it and want to share your opinion on the subject. Don't forget to share the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and stay amazing.